trying to restore some peace.
It looks like, I don't know if you're still with me.
Go ahead.
But they are evacuating the people who are still in the chamber. I am in a call with members of Congress and other journalists who are evacuating at this point. That portion of the Capitol is under control. I don't have a view on the rest of it at this time. You can see that members have been given gas masks. They are wearing perhaps the tear gas just out of caution. Yes, I see Hank Johnson. This is a large number of members of Congress, and I'm walking out the door with now. I just can't tell you. Everyone is being calm. Everyone seems in control. But I think when we look back on this, it will be hard to believe the actions that we are being forced to take right now.
Yeah, hard to believe. We want you to stay safe while you're coming down the stairs, Lisa. We do see House members. We saw one, as you said, with the gas mask on, as you described it, and we're watching other members trying to get to a place of safety while the police try to evacuate, apparently trying to evacuate these protesters who are moving into and taking over some parts of the Capitol. Lisa,
they are now.
Go ahead.
Sorry, they're moving us into. They're looks like they're moving us into a basement. I'm not sure what the ultimate destination is here. Some kind of secure space in the center underground of the Capitol at this point. So I don't know if my signal will stay up, but I will try and keep in touch with you guys as much as I can. I can take out this is probably the safest place I can be at with members of Congress and Capitol Police officers. Hello, Congressman.
Well, more than anything, we want you to stay safe, and of course, we want all the, everyone there to stay safe as possible. It looks like Lisa's now been forced to move to another location. We are, this is our eyes and ears at the Capitol. Lisa Desjardins, who had been reporting on the debate inside the Senate and the House, is now joining members of Congress in evacuating the Capitol, ordered by police to leave so that they can try to get the protesters out of the building. Apparently, that's what we believe is going on. Lisa's keeping that camera with her. That's what's giving us access to what you see in the underground, or at least in the lower levels of the Capitol. But you see people moving quickly, and we did see uniformed officers earlier armed as they were shouting and attempting to get the protesters to move. Unprecedented, historic. I think, when we think about the United States Capitol, we think about the debates that go on in the committee rooms and on the floor. This is not what we are used to seeing at the United States Capitol. But here we are, January the 6th, 2021. We have a president protesting an election result, and his millions of followers, thousands of whom have shown up in Washington today to breach the U.S. Capitol, to go inside, to what end, we're not clear, other than they want a different result. They don't want Joe Biden elected president. They want President Trump reelected, and they are not accepting the legitimate, certified, legally sworn results of the election. They believe that something has happened to rig the election, completely baseless. Okay, I'm told, let's see, I'm being given some information. Sarah, you want to repeat that? Two things to report: that they've called in more armed officers to the Capitol to try to restore peace there. That is happening right now. And also, we are told that a protester is in the well of the House of Representatives at the Speaker's lectern, I believe it is. There's a protester, in other words, or protesters inside the House chamber. Normally, this is a very restricted area. Only members of Congress are allowed to go there for obvious reasons, so the government can function, and for safety reasons. So we've gone well beyond that. Protesters inside the building, not only inside the Capitol building, but inside the chamber. Let's go back quickly now to the White House, where President Trump has, a few minutes ago, Yamiche, tweeted to people to stay calm, to respect the police, and yet this is a protest that he himself has called for. Yamiche, are you there?
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Judy. Essentially, yes, we are seeing the consequences of the president of the United States lying and telling millions and millions of Americans that an election was stolen from him. If this was happening in any other country, critics say we would call this a coup. We would call this an attempt to take over the government. That protester said he was thinking about 1776 when he told Lisa that he broke into the Capitol. And the president now is saying support our police, support the Capitol Police. But it really is obvious here that the president had been urged by fellow Republicans at times to condemn violence, to condemn people gathering today in Washington, D.C., and he chose not to do that. Instead, he chose to give an hour-long speech, more than an hour-long speech, saying, again, false claims and really getting people riled up, getting people angrier and angrier. And as a result, you saw this now burst into the Capitol. The images that we're seeing today with armed guards and with officers with their guns drawn in the U.S. Capitol, it is a result directly of the president of the United States telling Americans things that simply are not true. It was a disinformation campaign headquartered at the White House. Right now, we don't see any other White House officials coming to cameras to say, urging calm, to say something about what they want to see next. All we see right now is the president tweeting, but this is really a situation that, of course, is unprecedented. This is a situation that also goes directly to President Trump and all of the things that fellow Republicans were telling him to stop doing, including, of course, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who gave that speech today saying that it would simply be harmful to our democracy if we overthrew this election.
That's right, Yamiche. A number of leading Republicans disagreeing with what the president's doing, but that is after, we should say, after weeks and months of supporting the president's belief in these conspiracy theories, not standing up to the president, many of them. Lisa Desjardins, I think, are you at a place where we can go back to you inside the Capitol?
Yes, I'm now making my way. This is the underground tunnel that connects the U.S. Capitol to office buildings. This is where there's actually usually an underground train carrying members, which is not operating now. You see, I am with, I think, most of the members of Congress I expect have been evacuated from the House chamber. There was a large group, as you saw, that I was walking out with. You know, I have to tell you, there is some anxiety in this group. I saw some tears. I gave a hug to someone who was looking a little fearful. I also spoke to Representative Norma Torres of California. I said, how are you? I know you're telling people you're safe. I said, what do you think of how far out of the realm of reality does this feel like for you? She turned to me, Judy, and she said, I came to this country from Guatemala, a third world country. I came here to get away from this kind of threat to government. And she just shook her head. You know, I think right now the Capitol Police do seem to be bit by bit, trying to tackle goals, the first of which clearly was to get members of Congress and people inside the Capitol to safety. And it looks like that is happening now.
Lisa, have you seen any members who are embracing these protesters, supporting them? Because we know a number of them are supporting the idea of objecting to the electoral results.
You know, I am looking, I do not see any members who I know to be objectors in this crowd. I did speak earlier today to Representative Joe Wilson of South Carolina. This was after the first building, after the first place. It's a little loud right now because people are being told where they're supposed to go and where they can go. But Representative Wilson is one of the objectors, and this was when one of the buildings had been breached. And I said, have you heard about this? What do you think about this? And he told me he just hadn't heard about it yet. He had no comment on it at all. But I am very eager to hear what members of Congress supporting the objections say about this. Obviously, none of them want violence. None of them want this breach to have happened. But it has.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what their reaction is, whether they are embracing what these protesters are doing or whether they're going to speak up and say they've gone too far. Because essentially their actions are what has brought these protesters to Washington and to the Capitol. So it will be interesting to see the explanations that we hear. But what the protesters have done is they've managed to put a halt to what was supposed to be the constitutional requirement that the Congress of the United States count the electoral votes. One more step on the way to certifying that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will become president and vice president on the day of inauguration. Historically, this has been a reasonably routine day. There have been objections raised at different points, but it's never gone this far in American history where you've had protesters come in and actually break into the Capitol to express their strong views. Lisa, we are seeing history being made.
We are, and I think now what you've seen is members have been escorted back to their offices. I'm with a few of my fellow members of the press corps here. We've all been escorted out. We're just trying to find a place to work at this point. Right now, it's this elevator bank between the Longworth and Cannon office buildings. Underground, there's no sign of protesters here, and it does look like the areas on either side of this have been secured. Who knows how long we're going to have to be in place here? And I think that a lot of us left, obviously, without provisions for staying anywhere very long. But we'll see. You know, they've made a move to stabilize areas of the Capitol and to get people to safety. So that is progress.
That is progress, and we know, as we reported a few moments ago, there have now been more armed law enforcement have been called into the Capitol area. So there will be, we presume, attempts made to clear the Capitol of the protesters. We saw some of that. Lisa was right there inside the Capitol a few minutes ago when we saw armed law enforcement, trying to get protesters out. But that's going to take some time to do. We don't know the course that this is going to take. This is all unfolded in a very unplanned, at least to us, unplanned, unknown manner, and we are following it just as you are, as you're watching this. We weren't sure where, we knew there were protests. We did not know it was going to lead to this. And so we continue to watch. But for the time being, the business of the Congress called for in the Constitution to count the electoral votes has stopped. That's going to have to continue at some point after the Capitol is made safe. And Lisa, as far as we know, they haven't even been able to move on past the state of Arizona. So they've got another 47 states to go, plus the District of Columbia.
That's right. We were expecting today something like 12 hours devoted to the electoral process and to finishing the 2020 election. Right now, it is unclear that that could possibly continue today. I'd be very surprised if it can continue anytime soon. Obviously, with those pictures, it's very helpful for me to see the pictures that you're showing of the front steps, because here inside the Capitol, we're very blind as to how many protesters